Hi, everybody. It is time for lesson 6. And lesson 6 is sort of inspired by the fact that I really pretty well messed up lesson 5. And the reason that I messed up lesson 5 was that I kind of jumped a step and I assumed that you would know how to count beats verbally and how to write those counts with a pencil under notes. And I never explained how to do it. And I apologize for that. So I'm going to back up and explain how to write beats under notes so that you can understand how beats are written and how they're subdivided and how they're counted. So the first thing you have to do when you look at a piece of music is you have to look at the meter signature. It's absolutely crucial. You have to know how many beats there are in a measure, and you have to know what kind of note gets one beat. What kind of note are we counting? How many of that kind of note can fit into a measure in this particular piece of music? So, for example, if the time signature is 4/4, then the top 4 means that there are 4 beats in a measure, and the bottom 4 means that the quarter note gets 1 beat. So there can be as many as 4 quarter notes in a measure. There can also be more than that, not more than 4 quarter notes, but there can be more than 4 notes, because we can take any one of those quarter notes and subdivide them into faster things. So in 4/4 time, we have 4 quarter notes conceivably. 1, 2, 3, 4. But what if we want to have ba, 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 ba? That means that the first 2 beats have been subdivided into twice as fast notes, which are eighth notes. So instead of saying 1, 2, 3, 4, we're going to say 1 and 2 and 3, 4. So we use that little word and to indicate that the beat has been subdivided. So we take eighth notes and we, in this case, where quarter notes are the unit, we take eighth notes and we use the little word and to verbally explain how we are subdividing the rhythm. Now I've given you some pieces of paper. This is one of them. It says counting beats, and under the notes there are written out counting beats. That's the way we write what I just said. So we write the number under the note. If there's a 4 on the bottom of the time signature, then we're counting quarter notes. So if you look at a quarter note, you write a number under it. There can be as many as 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's pretty simple. But when you get over here, you have a half note. Well, how do I write a half note if I'm only counting quarter notes? Well, how many quarter notes are in a half note? 2. So the way we write that is 1-2. That means that we hold the beat for 2 beats for the length of 2 quarter notes. So instead of going ba, ba, we go ba. So this is ba, ba, ba. 1-2, 3, 4. We write it with a hyphen. We speak it by saying 1, 2, or we go ba, 3, 4, whatever works for you. But this is the way we write it when we're writing counts. In the next measure, we have a dotted half note. That gets 3 beats. A dotted half note. The dot, remember, extends the note by half of itself. So instead of 2 beats for a half note, we have a dotted half note. That's 3 beats. It's half again more. So this is 3 beats, and it's followed by a quarter note. So we write 1-2-3 and put the 4 under that last quarter note. That means we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Da, da. And over here we have a whole note, 1-2-3-4. That means we're going to hold that note for 4 beats. Da. And then in the last measure we have a quarter note followed by a half note, followed by a half rest, a quarter rest. Remember that rests count for the same number of beats as their equivalent notes. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. The 4 is silent when you're singing. So you would go ba, ba. Now each one of these lines has many of them have different time signatures. You've got to look at that time signature. You should count out loud before you start. 1, 2, 3. In that case, and you should know in your mind you're counting quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But then we're going to have subdivisions, 1 and 2, 3, 1 and 2 and 3 and I've written them all out for you. These are the correct answers. I have also given you exactly the same sheet, but without the answers. This is the one you're going to use for your homework. This is the one where you take a pencil and try to do it yourself. And when you run into trouble, you consult the answer sheet. And when you're finished with this, you erase it and try to do it again a couple days later when you've forgotten. So you're going to use this for your homework, and this is your answer key. They are the same, except that the answers are written in here. This is the answer to all of your questions when you have questions, because you will. This will answer them, I hope. When you have 2 beats in a measure, you're only going to count to 2. 1, 2, 1 and 2 and 1, 2 and. That's a one to think about. That's a dotted quarter note followed by an eighth note, and we're in 2/4 time. That means a quarter note gets 1 beat, and there are 2 of them in a measure. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Typically, march is written in 2/4 time. So when you have a dotted quarter note followed by an eighth note, it means that the dotted quarter note is taking, sort of borrowing, the first half of the second beat. In addition to its own 1 and, it's taking 2 from the second beat and leaving the and. So instead of 1 and 2 and, we have da da, 1 and 2 and. So what I write is 1, 2 and I put the and under the last eighth note. This one is really hard for people, and you need to stop and really think that through. This isn't illogical, it's actually quite logical. But people get all mixed up with their ands, and they say, I don't know where to put the and. Look where I wrote it, and that's the answer. See if you can make that make sense. There are 3 eighth notes inside of a dotted quarter note. So, ba, 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 ba. This is the quarter note. The eighth notes are twice as fast. Da, 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 da. 1 and 2 and, 1 and 2 and. But there are 3 eighth notes inside of a dotted quarter note. So it gets 1 and 2. Leaving and. So we have 1 and 2 and. We go down to 2/2 time. That means a half note gets 1 beat. When a half note gets 1 beat, a quarter note gets a half a beat. So in this case, we have 1, 2. Those are half notes, but they still get 1 beat. And then we have 1, 2 and. That's a half note and 2 quarter notes when the time signature is 2/2. 1, 2 and. See if you can think about that. Down here we get into where the eighth note gets 1 beat. And frequently, when an eighth note gets 1 beat, although this isn't always true, but frequently, the composer is going to be writing in triple meter, which means that you're going to have groups of 3 eighth notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Da, 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 da. And each of those gets a beat. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is what I wrote under all those eighth notes. 2 eighth notes equal a quarter note, so if you see a quarter note in 6/8 time, you're probably going to have a leftover eighth note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Da, 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 da. Very common. 9/8 is going to be 3 groups of 3 eighth notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And so I've given you several sort of typical measures in that time signature. Remember that a dotted a dotted quarter note, when the unit is an 8, the dotted quarter note gets 3 eighth notes. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but you're just saying ba, ba. Remember that a quarter rest is going to get the equivalent of 2 eighth rests. An eighth rest is this little thing that looks like a little 7. And then I've given you 12/8, which is not a completely unusual. Let's see. What is the impossible dream? To dream the impossible dream. That's in 9/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is sort of a famous song in 9/8 time. We've run across 12/8 too, where each of the beats, each of the big beats, has 3 subdivides. If you want to think of it as 1, 2, 3, 4, it would be da 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 da. simply because it's awkward to count to 12, but typically technically that's what this is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And you can substitute all kinds of longer notes. You can have quarter notes, you can have dotted quarter notes, you can have rests, you can have all kinds of things. But if you are holding a note longer than the unit note, you're going to use hyphens to indicate that by holding on. There is a piece of paper also that I gave you that just looks like this, and it's just rules. I was just giving you sort of a recap of what I just said. Things to remember. You must read the time signature first. You must understand that. Then you have to understand what number you've got to get to at the end of every measure. Then you've got to remember that rests count the same as notes. Then you've got to remember that dotted notes are half again longer than the note that the dot is with. So a quarter note gets 1 beat, a dotted quarter note gets 1.5. If a half note gets 2 beats, then a dotted half note gets 3. If a whole note gets 4 beats, a dotted whole note gets 6. You are increasing the note by half of itself. And then the subdivisions. If you have subdivisions, you're going to use the little word and to count them: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And if you're going to subdivide them by 4, where you have, let's say, 4 16th notes instead of a quarter note. Quarter notes are 1, 2, 3, 4. If they're subdivided by 4, they're 16th notes. Then it's 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. We spell that with a little Y. 1E and the and is used, we use a little plus sign. So a Y. So you have 1Y plus and. 1E and So in order to get 4 sounds to go into one beat, instead of saying 1, we say 1E and a. Da 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 da, da 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 da. Okay? This is just the conventional way that people have been teaching counting notes and beats forever. And, other people that you know will say 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and you may not know what they're doing. Lawrence Welk did it all the time. And a 1 and a 2 and a 3. He was subdividing the beats. That's all I'm asking you to do. Subdivide the beats when it's appropriate. And have a way for your voice to do it and a way for your pencil to do it. The answers are here. Here are some examples, and here are the answers. Same examples, but with the answers written in. You cover this up, you can practice with these. If you're not sure whether you got it right, uncover it. Then take your homework sheet and try to write the beats. When you get stuck and confused, here's the answer key. You have all this on your email, assuming that Google has allowed me to send it to you. And you can do that work. And I know it's not very exciting or glamorous, but it's really important. It makes an enormous difference when we work together as a group that you can count beats, that you have some idea of when to sing a particular note. It's all well and good to sing the right note and to sing it with a beautiful tone and to be impressive and to be loud and maybe to be a soloist. It's all very glamorous. But if you don't know when to sing that note within the context of the music, you're going to sing it at the wrong time. If you sing it at the wrong time, you're going to spoil everything. And you don't want to do that. Everybody wants to sing beautifully, but we also want to sing accurately. So let's get the notes right, but let's get them at the right time. And the only way to do that is to take this concept of time that we've been given and to try to count it, to try to give it beat, to try to give it pulse, to try to understand that music, like physical beings, has a pulse because it's alive. And life is accompanied by pulse. Pulse or beat is the basis, it's the heart and soul and kernel of all the music that we do. It's all based on beat. So to be able to subdivide the beat, count the beat, feel the beat, internalize the beat is to be a musician. So that's what I want for you. So I hope you'll take some time with this assignment. And the next lesson, which will be 6A, will be all about singing, I promise. Okay? So have a great day, and I'll see you for lesson 6A. Bye bye.